Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 242. And we have got a very special guest joining us today, our second week in a row with a guest joining us from the USA. The last guest, Mr. Andrew Burton. Is that right? Did we have Andrew on last week, Pete? It seems like a long time ago.
That was because we recorded it on a Tuesday, so it was like 10 days ago.
Oh, it's 10 days. Yeah, I'm going to say. Yeah, so we have Mr. Andrew Burton from Texas last episode.
Right.
This episode, we have a gentleman joining us from Northern California who I'll introduce you to in a minute. I'll just touch base with Mr. Peter Lant and check he's all okay. How are you doing, Pete? You okay?
Yeah, I'm doing, like I've just been saying, I'm tired because I've done a lot of steps this month, but, you know, that's what I do for a living, isn't it? So can't complain.
Lots of walking.
Yes.
A nice short summer haircut, as we said.
Absolutely. That's because it's my sister-in-law's 60th birthday today, actually. And we're flying up to Newcastle on Saturday to go to a party on Saturday night, and then we'll fly back on Sunday. So a very short trip, but I thought I'd better get my hair cut.
You look very neat, very
Because usually I just chuck a cap on. Right, I'll just chuck that on, and then like it's fine. But you can't really go to a party like that, can you? So
no.
I better be respectable.
Excellent.
Or as we would say in our age, if anyone knows who Mel and Kim were, it's respectable.
Yes. You know? Okay. And we are joined today. I'll introduce him first, then I will kind of give you a little bit of background and about how this gentleman came to be on the podcast today. But we're joined today by Mr. Mike Tiktinsky from Northern California. How are you doing, Mike? You okay?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Mike is joining us from, it looks like his I think it's his garage gym at home. Sure. And he's got like a lovely power rack behind him, lots of kind of certificates by his side and medals as well, it looks like, which we'll probably talk about today. Now, Mike, this is why sometimes, I mean, there's lots of bad things about the internet and social media and all the rest of it. There's lots of problems with it, but also it can be a very positive thing, because a few weeks ago I posted a video of one of our members, Mr. Andy Sleet, who was kind of getting down onto the floor and back up without using his hands post knee replacement, and Mike put a comment, I think, on the reel. I think it might have been on Facebook.
It was.
Yeah, on Facebook. And he said, you know, I'm 78 years of age. I've got two knee replacements, and I'm a power lifter, and I hold state records and things like that. And he gave me a link to his YouTube, which we will give a plug to now and later. It's Silver Iron Warriors. So Silver Iron Warriors. And I went onto the YouTube channel, watched some of his videos, listened to him talking, thought this guy's great. He's not a nutcase. He's someone we can have on the podcast, which is great. So I reached out and we had a few messages back and forth, and lo and behold, Mike is joining us today from Northern California to talk about his life and his training and everything else. So welcome, Mike. It's really lovely to have you on.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It was fun having the conversation about the knee replacements on Facebook, and I'm glad to be able to participate in your podcast. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. So I have watched some of your videos. I know you had a competition fairly recently. I think it was only a few weeks back, maybe probably a bit further. When this goes out, you know, this is going out on the 18th of April. If you're listening when it releases, which I know many of you do. So yeah, a few weeks back you had your powerlifting, the most recent powerlifting meet. But I suppose to begin with, I mean, it was obviously the two knee replacements that you kind of mentioned in the original comment, that got us talking. But I suppose what would be really good is for you to maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, about your, if you've always been active, what you used to do, how life has changed. I mean, at 78 years old, still a competitive power lifter, and not just you know, a recreational one, but you know, setting records and things post knee surgeries. But yeah, maybe just to hear a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we can kind of just go for it, go wherever the conversation takes us, really.
Okay. Well, let me start by saying 20 years ago, I had prostate cancer. And in February of 2005, I had surgery. And I have been prostate cancer free now for 20 years. And that's what started me on my journey to getting stronger. After my surgery, I said, I got to get stronger to face whatever life is going to throw at me. So that's how I started. In 2005, I lived in San Francisco at the time. My wife and I were renting a place in San Francisco, and I joined a gym, and I didn't know what I was doing, but they had selectorized machines laid out in a kind of a circuit, and I would go in and I'd do about 18 machines a day. That's how I started.
So this was so this was, you were 58 years of age, I think, approximately at this time.
That's correct.
And had you a history of training when you were younger at all? I mean, did you,
no,
were you a sports person, or did you train in a gym ever when you were younger?
No, I was a runner. I started running when I was 30. And I'd really never lifted weights. I did a little bit of stuff when I was running, but it was mostly for, you know, just trying to keep my muscles moving is all. So when I after the prostate cancer, I decided I really had to do something different. And so I started going to the gym, and I was working at the time. I was a trial consultant. I worked with lawyers and law firms on all kinds of legal cases, almost all civil. Most countries outside of the United States don't have the kind of civil litigation that the United States has. But about 98% of what I did was work on civil cases. And when I was 60, I was down in Los Angeles for 6 weeks on a patent case. I worked on over 120 patent cases during my career. Love patent work. It's really interesting stuff. And I was staying in a place in downtown Los Angeles, which was right around the corner from the Los Angeles Athletic Club. And I wanted to keep working out, and we were putting in, you know, 10-hour days, 7 days a week. And I really needed to keep working out. And I joined the LA Athletic Club. And as part of joining it, they gave me a personal trainer, which I had never worked with a personal trainer before. And he did a whole evaluation on me. And he said, you know, you're pretty strong. And he showed me a completely different way of working out. And about 3 weeks later, I had him spot for me, and I bench pressed 200 pounds for the first time. I did 3 reps. And I was 60 years old. First time I bench pressed 200 pounds.
Wow. So for the English and Europeans, that's about 90 kilos, I think.
Yeah, about 90 kilos.
Yeah, about 90 kilos on there. Yeah. Wow. At 60 years of age, 3 reps at 90. Okay. Brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, if I can do 200, I can do 300. Right? Why not? And so 3.5 years later, I bench pressed 300 pounds. And I actually have some video of it, or some pictures of it somewhere. And so I was 63 at the time. Yeah. And I said, well, gee, now I did 300 pounds. I wonder, there's got to be an old man weightlifting competition. And I searched around, and I found the United States Powerlifting Association, which was a fairly new organization at the time. In 2011, I did my first powerlifting meet, bench press only. And between doing 300 pounds in that meet, of course, I tore my shoulder because I've been working out on a Smith machine, and I highly recommend you never work out on a Smith machine. They're terrible machines. They don't allow you to get all the small muscles and all the other stuff. Anyway, so I did, I think 210 or 212 in the, so about 100, just under 100 kilos in that. And I got a gold medal, and I said, oh, this is really cool. And so at 65, I started becoming much more active as a power lifter. I didn't know anything else about it. I went to my first meet. I blew the first lift because I didn't wait for the commands. It's really easy to do. And particularly if you don't have anybody training with you, who's teaching you about powerlifting.
So the trainer that you got given or assigned to at the LA club, did they continue to work with you? I mean, because it sounds like you obviously went from not doing any strength training to then using machines to then kind of become like a power lifter and be doing sort of barbell training, if you like. Were you kind of self-taught, or did that trainer kind of work with you for a while?
Well, no, he just worked for me for 2 sessions. He taught me about doing supersets, which I had never understood.
Yeah.
And remember, this was at a time before we had cell phones that we have now. I mean, we had cell phones, but no video and no internet like that on the phones. So, so I was just doing whatever I could. When I came back from Los Angeles after that 6 weeks, my wife said, yeah, maybe you should get a trainer. So I got a trainer to work with in the club that I'd been working out. And she taught me a lot of stuff. Vanessa was great. And so she helped me get stronger and work on lots of different kinds of lifting, with barbells and dumbbells and all of that. And sometime during that period, I got my very first training partner, workout partner, a young man. And by the way, all my workout partners have been a minimum of 25 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And this young man, Bob, had been an all-state football player in college. I mean, he was recognized as an all-state player. And he's then went to law school and became a lawyer. And he'd taken off all the weight that he'd put on for playing football, but he was solid muscle. He would warm up doing deadlifts of 400 pounds. Okay. I mean, what is that? 150 kilos, a little more. Something like that.
180 kilos. Yeah.
180 kilos.
Yeah.
He would warm up doing deadlifts with that. That's how strong he was. And he only weighed about 165 pounds.
Yeah.
Okay. He was just solid muscle. And he taught me a lot of stuff about working out in the gym. One of which was you always use the bigger plates because it looks a hell of a lot better.
Absolutely.
Anyway, and during that time, there was a man named Alan Ertz, who was very big in USPA. He and his wife, Bonnie, had won national and international powerlifting meets. And he trained people. He had his own personal gym down by San Jose, which is in the South Bay. And he always invited me to come over. He was at the very first powerlifting meet when I had blown my first lift. He took me aside and whispered in my ear and was very nice. And he invited me at that point to come work out in his gym. Well, and at some point I eventually did with a friend of mine, Alan Eric, with Artis Graham. Artis and I went down to work with Alan a couple of times. Alan knew some serious secrets about powerlifting and taught me a number of things that I still use today in my powerlifting. But
so how did you, I'm just wondering, Mike, so how did you, the first competition you did was bench press only?
Correct.
Presumably after that you've moved into, because I know now you do the full squat, bench and deadlift.
Right, full power.
What was the kind of transition across? Why did you only do bench the first time, and sort of how did that progress that you then learned to squat and deadlift and things like that?
Well, I didn't know about squat and deadlift.
Okay.
At the time. And so when I went to the first meet is when I saw that there were these other lifts. And so I guess it was sort of a process. I made it to a national championship down in Southern California one year. And I tried deadlifting. I never had deadlifted, and I picked up 303 pounds.
Okay. 330, yeah?
Yeah.
About 130 or something.
303 pounds. Was that 137 and a half kilos?
That is, yeah, 137.5. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what I did actually on February 22nd. That was my second deadlift. That's what gave me the total for a state record for total for full power.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I've got a question. So when you going back to LA, you were 60 years old. So you get to 60 years old, you bench press for the first time, and you do 200 pounds. And then you say, right, if I can do 200, I can do 300. Where did that because there's a lot of people who will go, that's strong enough, that's fine, and they'll just end it there. They'll go, that's fine, I'm strong enough. But your mindset took you, your perception of that was, right, if I can do that, could I do more? So where does that come from? Because obviously you've not done this in the past. So at 60 years old, you're like, oh, right, let's see where I can take this. Whereas a lot of people might just say, well, I'm doing well for 60, So where did that come from?
Well, let me go back. I've always been somebody who set goals for myself.
Okay. Yep.
When I was 14, I decided I was going to get a PhD in psychology. And instead of getting it at 26, I got it at 27. I was a year off. and so
then did you have to do perform some therapy on yourself to get over that?
Not for that, no. But I have always been somebody who sets goals for myself. So I used to be a runner. I started running when I think I was 30. And I eventually got to the point where one day a week I would run a 12-mile run. And I would do about 40 miles a week. I took my son on his first 12-mile run. And I never wanted to do more than that. I never wanted to do a marathon or anything like that. That just didn't seem to be of interest to me. But I've always, Lake Tahoe, which is in sort of goes between Nevada and California. It's a very large lake with up in the mountains at 6,000 feet elevation. What is that? And I don't know what to do in meters on that, but
about 2,000 meters, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, we were camping one year and I had decided I was going to ride my bike around the lake, and that's almost 70 miles. And up and down hills, and and I did it. Nobody went with me. I decided to do it, and nobody else wanted to do it, so I did it. So I checked that one off. But I've just always been somebody who sets goals for myself. So and part of what happened when I got the prostate cancer was I got to get strong to face whatever else life throws at me. That was my mindset. And so if I could do 200 pounds, if I could do 300 pounds, that was going to get me stronger to face whatever crazy things life threw at me. So that's sort of how my mindset works. I'm not somebody who just takes things lying down. So, for example, when I was 42, I tore my ACL 100% in my left dominant leg from skiing. I don't ski anymore. I didn't start skiing till my 20s. I was never good at it. And we were up in Canada when I tore my knee. And I had, I think, 4 surgeries before I had to have my knee replaced. But I tried to keep running after my knee surgeries. And I did after the first one. I did a little bit after the second one. After the third one, which was right before I had the prostate cancer, I couldn't run anymore. And I loved running because I used to travel a lot on business. And so one of the joys I would have is going to a new city and getting up before sunrise and running through the city and seeing the city. That was always a nice thing to do. But I couldn't do it anymore. So I had to replace something. I needed to work out because I need to keep myself healthy. I mean, if you don't work out, it's, you got to do exercise. Otherwise, it's a downhill slope. It's a downhill slope anyway. You're just trying to flatten out the curve, as it were.
Yeah.
We say that all the time.
Yeah, I was going to say we talk about this a lot, and I love, because I was going to ask actually at 58 when you started strength training, I was going to ask kind of, well, why didn't you just? I mean, I think it's great that you did start strength training, but why did you not just go back to running or cardiovascular stuff?
I couldn't run.
Or
I couldn't run. It hurt too much.
Yeah, you've explained that now, but before I was going to ask that, or maybe cycling or swimming, or but do you think there was something about strength training where you said you just needed to be strong to face whatever life would throw at you?
Well, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
good question. I was a swimmer in high school. I played water polo. I was never very good. I've never been very good at any sports until I started powerlifting. It's the first sport I've ever excelled at, which is one of the reasons I really like it. But swimming doesn't get you stronger. It gets you good cardiovascular. Biking, I love biking, but you have to have a piece of equipment. You have to go somewhere. The nice thing about strength training is it's all right there. And you can do it. You can do it in lots and lots and lots of different ways. So that was the calculus I went through. And specifically, lifting weights, strength training is to get strong. And I realized I just needed to get strong. And so that's how that happened. And of course, when in 2011, we moved to the house that we're in now. We moved out of San Francisco. We had a house that we owned up in Napa. We sold that. And when I first started commuting from here into the city, I was going to the gym I belonged to had a different location, and I joined that different location, and that's how I met my next workout partner, Artis. Also, who's about 25 years younger than me. He's the one I went with to the Arnold when we went to see the Arnold and went to Westside Barbell the week after the powerlifting meet. Anyway, so I don't remember how much I was paying a month to have membership in the gym in San Francisco, which is where I worked. And I decided that the amount of money I was spending in a year, I could build my own gym in my garage. And so that was the calculus that went into that. And our Alan Ertz, who had the gym down in San Jose area, had recommended where to get certain pieces of equipment, like this power rack from Texas Strength Systems. And I have a few other pieces of theirs here too. But so, you know, powerlifting is a nice community. People help each other. And that's been sort of one of my things. I have a young man who lives with his grandparents across the street. He's here for college, and he wanted to start working out. He wants to go in the military. He's 19 years old. So I invited him in. I started training him, and then sort of turned the gym over to him because I didn't want to spend 3 hours a week. But last week we did a 1-rep max, and he deadlifted 255 pounds for the first time. So, and he asked me at one point, "Can I pay you?" I said, "No, you can't pay me. No. You just got to put everything back. I got rules in my gym. Rule 1 is safety. Rule 2 is you put everything back exactly where it is." And he didn't. One time he didn't put it right, and we had a little talk, and he took pictures of where everything goes, and he hasn't had that problem since. But he's been working out here now about 5 months. He's got the code to get into the garage. If the car is here, I pull the car out for him. And he wants to be in the military. He's 19 years old. When he first came in, he'd just been running. He couldn't do a pull-up. Okay. And this kid has now developed a lot of muscle tone throughout his whole body. The fact that he can pick up 255 pounds in a deadlift tells me he's been working real hard. And so I show him things periodically, but I won't charge him. That's not where I'm at. But before I retired, let me sort of back up a little bit. Before I retired, I thought, well, maybe what I want to do is have a little extra way to earn some income. So I became a certified personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine. And then I also, United States Powerlifting Association has a certificate program for being a certified powerlifting coach practitioner. So I did both of those, and I have the let's see here. Wait a minute. You can see those right there. Can you see those?
Yeah.
All right. So the certified personal trainer, I'm emeritus, which means I'm an old man, right? It means I don't have to pay dues every year. and USPA didn't have a way to do that. But so part of my journey was learning more and more about lifting and strength and proper ways of training. So I've made that kind of a process for me. And of course, hanging around USPA members at meets and stuff, I learned about a number of things from Westside Barbell. So I have, let's see if I can take this over here. So you see the bands and straps over there?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That is a very tidy garage. I like the way the bikes are on the wall as well.
He's gonna love this.
Yeah, and see there's my exercise bike,
treadmill,
and my wife's treadmill.
Yeah.
But these I just got at Westside Barbell when we went back there. You see these are their advanced bands, but I've got all those bands. And by the way, here's my new camber bar. Can you see that?
Oh, I've seen the video of you squatting with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at the difference in diameter between my Texas Power Bar and the Camber Bar. Do you see that?
Yeah. So
see how much thicker that is?
So the camber bar, that's better for shoulder mobility and things, isn't it? Because it's easier to get into position. But what would the benefit be of using a camber bar over a straight bar, if you don't mind me asking?
Okay, well, it is exactly for shoulders.
Yeah.
It's to help take some of the pressure. And March of 2024, I had shoulder surgery. I had 2 rotator cuffs repaired. My bicep tendon had to be put back in its proper place, called a tenodesis. And there was a bunch of damage on top of my shoulder that the surgeon fixed. So I'll tell you briefly what happened. We lived in Hawaii for about 3 years, which is why I hadn't competed because there's no powerlifting over there, and we were there during COVID. And so, but the beaches opened up one day, and it was Father's Day, and I decided, I was going to go body surfing at Magic Sands Beach. Well, that was a mistake. Magic Sands Beach, it turns out, is the most serious most serious body surfing beach in the entire state of Hawaii. And the first thing that happened is I got slammed by a wave and landed on my left dominant shoulder. And so that interfered with some of my lifting, let me tell you. We got back from Hawaii, got our house back, reset up my gym, but I really didn't have the strength in my shoulder because of the pain. And my wife and I decided to learn how to play pickleball. I don't know. You ever played pickleball? It's great.
We've had actually, it's funny because we've had a couple not together but individually, Mark and Tracy Rifkind. And Mark years ago was a power lifter, and he's been a bodybuilder as well, but she talked about pickleball, and they both live in San Jose. So she mentioned pickleball to us. So yeah, just kind of explain what it is again, just for people who because we don't have it over here. I'm sure we don't, but
it's a game that has gotten to be the most popular game around. It's got, well, let's see. See the ball there?
Oh yes, yeah.
That's the pickleball. Okay, you can see the size of it.
And you hit it with like a racket, don't you, or a bat or something?
You hit it with a paddle.
A paddle, okay, yeah.
Not a racket. Rackets have strings. Paddle doesn't have a string.
So it's more like a table tennis bat, but
it is
bigger version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I didn't have the right shoes, and within the first month, I fell on that same shoulder. Okay. And I couldn't eat. I have a 15-pound bar. I didn't show it to you, but I have a 15-pound aluminum bar that's a training bar, and I couldn't even bench press that. So my personal doctor, I don't know if you've ever heard of Kaiser Medical System, but I have Kaiser, and Kaiser in San Francisco has a sports medicine center with a doctor who's the doctor for the Golden State Warriors, the basketball team. Okay. And my doctor referred me to Dr. Need, who's the doctor for the Warriors. And he looked at my shoulder and he gave me a shot of cortisone. And gee, I could move it, but I still didn't have the strength. And then I got another shot of cortisone, and I learned from my knees, when the shot of cortisone lasts no more than 3 days, it's time to get something else done. So anyway, in March of 2024, I had shoulder surgery. And by the way, there's a woman who's at Kaiser who's a physician's assistant in orthopedics, and she's the one who recommended the doctor to do my knees. She said, I've never seen anybody with as good a hands when it comes to knees. And I'll talk about my knees in a minute, but she then recommended the shoulder surgeon for me. She said, he's the best I've seen. And the guy is really good. I have a friend who's a retired physician. And when I was getting ready for the surgery, he said, most people, they're either going to repair your shoulder by putting a new shoulder in, or they're just going to close it up and that's it. And when I got done and I sent him a copy of the surgical report, he said, this guy's amazing what he did to your shoulder. Now, when I had my knees, I had my first knee replacement in 2017, followed 11 months later by my second knee replacement. But you see, you saw the exercise bike I had, and one of the things I was doing to prepare for both knee replacements was getting on the exercise bike. I needed it for cardio anyway. But when to prepare for my first knee replacement, I had the power rack out here and I set up the bench for bench pressing because I knew I wouldn't be able to use my legs and be able to lift a lot of weight. And Kaiser sends a physical therapist out to your home within 2 days after you come home from your knee replacement. And I took him out and I showed him the stuff out here and he was having a fit. You can't be lifting that kind of weight. Well, guess what? And I have a slant board, you know, for stretching your calf, and you have to do that. And, you know, and so when I had my second knee replacement, I again had the setup out here with the power rack and all of that. And he said, I know you. Okay, now I understand. And okay. I was on the second knee replacement. I did a major, what I call prehab. I spent 5 months, 5 days a week for minimum 30 minutes a day on an exercise bike, getting my leg ready for the knee replacement. I was off crutches day one after I got to the second knee replacement. And the fact that I can do a full squat, my friend who's the physician, retired physician, had never seen anybody with 2 knee replacements be able to do a full squat. And that's how I got started filming my exercises and my workouts, because we wanted to prove to him. So if you saw that squat where I measured the plyo box, which is 12 inches, and I got 145 pounds on my back, that was for him, to show him that I could do a full squat.
It's like you say, the guy from Kaiser who came around to your house is probably used to going to people's houses and them not doing anything or having to be really forced or coaxed to do stuff. But you obviously had this full gym set up. You were, if anything, he was trying to hold you back, you know, from so that's probably very different to what he's used to when he sees most people post-op. Yeah.
Well, that's true. I think my surgeon told me after my first knee replacement, Kaiser has classes for joint replacement. He said, don't go. I said, why not? He said, because you will demoralize all the other patients.
I had a chat with a guy. So we've, I don't know if you're aware of Park Run, but it's a 5K run every Saturday. People do it all over the world, I think. And there's loads of data for people so you can check your age range, where you do it locally, all of these things. He's in his 60s, he's 61 or 62, and he's in the 65th percentile or something, you know, and he was like, that doesn't sound that great. And I'm like, yeah, but you're comparing yourself to people who go running every Saturday and actually do the thing. If you go to a doctor's, they'll tell you what you're based on the national average, and you're probably in the 90th percentile on that, you know, so It's funny because when you say the guy from Kaiser comes round and has a look at your setup and he's like, you shouldn't be lifting that. He's comparing you to people your age across the whole country or whatever, or across whoever they look at. He's not comparing you to other people who do what you do, because there's like 3.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, the powerlifting meet, which was on February 22nd, that I competed in, the USPA had powerlifting meets all over California that day. They were called mega California meets or something. And they combined the results from all those meets. There were a number of tested meets, so that drug testing, and that's what I competed in. And then there were non-drug testing. They combined those. And as a result of that, I won a Best Lifter award for Master Men Deadlift. So I've never won a Best Lifter award, because you have to have at least 5 people competing in that age group. And I've never had 5 people to compete against.
I suppose, like you say, they took all of the competitive. So what is it? Is it like a 70 plus, 70 to 80? Is that?
No, over 40. Masters Men is over 40.
Yeah, but
and it was deadlift only. People who did deadlift only, and they have a formula for equating age and body weight. And as a result, I got Best Lifter. So I was really, I've never gotten a Best Lifter award.
But don't they have higher categories? So there's Masters is over 40, but do they have then like an over 50s and over 60s? And
well, yeah, no, and for the full power, I'm in the 75 to 79 age group.
Yes. Okay.
It's 5-year age plans.
Okay.
So, but I did on, when I competed on full power, which is all 3 lifts.
Yeah.
Deadlift only and bench press only. And so it was basically everybody who was in the tested meet who did deadlift only. And then they threw us all together, and my numbers came out higher than everybody else's.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't gotten a medal yet. They've got they'll send it to me when they get it, but I will get that medal. That's an important one.
So I was going to say, all of these medals behind you, Mike, on there, are they all powerlifting medals? All the ones that are behind you, are they for various things in the past as well, or all powerlifting?
All powerlifting.
Yeah.
Now there's 27 of them up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was when I saw those medals, I was like, do you know what? I haven't got any medals for anything. You were 10 years older than me when you started, so I've got plenty. It's all right. I've got time.
You got time, yeah. Now, see, that's what I call my ego wall. And see, I used to work with attorneys, right? I spent 30 years of a career working with lawyers and law firms and attorneys, and most of them have many of them have an ego wall somewhere in their office about people they've met and got pictures with, like a president or a vice president, or they have certain things that they've done. They won a particular case that had a lot of value to it. So having an ego wall is not something that's unusual for the people that I used to hang around with. But so this is my ego wall. And when I got my very first medals, I didn't know what to do with them. And I've got a couple of grandchildren who are competitive swimmers. And the younger of the 2 is actually on a full scholarship to a Division I school for swimming. Okay. And they have in their bedrooms just tons of medals all over the place. And I thought, yeah, I get that. I understand why you do that now. And so there's my ego wall. By the way, the pickleball, we were in Hawaii for a month year before last, I guess. And I participated in a tournament with some people we met, and I got a second place. So that's the ball from the game.
Excellent. What I love about everything you've just said there is you talk about your granddaughter being a swimmer and medals everywhere. And I think most people, certainly of your age, but like, I don't know, so like 50, 60 or above ago, these are all the medals from like 30 years ago when I used to be good at this thing and all of that. and they're always looking at the past of like, I'm never going to be like that again. Yours are all from the last 20 years, which is
this is just 20 years.
Which is amazing.
Stuff.
I love that. You're like, oh yeah, these are all since I was 60.
And I got one more coming in.
I think that's brilliant.
So what I love, Mike, is we talk a lot on this podcast. We a lot of listeners in their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And the fact that you started this kind of journey, like you say, you used to run sort of in your 30s and things. But then had the prostate cancer when you were around sort of 58, I think you said. So this kind of journey, this sort of iteration of your sort of athletic career, if you like, is 58 to 78 so far and ongoing,
I'm planning for more. I'd love to come to Europe and compete in a powerlifting meet in Europe.
Oh, I mean, the thing is, so what's so inspiring, I hope that people are listening to this, and because like Pete sort of mentioned, a lot of people are looking back all the time, and if they get to maybe even their 50s or their 60s, they're kind of the last thing they're thinking of potentially is starting something new or learning something new or competing at something new. And like you say, powerlifting is a solo sport, but we talk about community a lot on this podcast as well. You mentioned your training partners and you training the young lad, opposite in your gym, and then the camaraderie you get at the meets and the people you meet and the things that
Right.
go on. So, I mean, hopefully people listen to this and think that, and especially that after the knees as well, 2 knee replacements, and a lot of people would see that as maybe a point in time to maybe slow down or stop or take up something a lot more sedate, but the fact that you're doing this still, I mean, hopefully it inspires lots of people.
Well, 2.5 years ago, I had a heart attack too.
Okay.
So we're now laughing. Oh, you had a heart.
Yeah.
See, shit happens. Pardon my language. I didn't mean to swear.
Yeah.
Nasty things are going to happen to people as we get older. The question is, how do you deal with it? And how, and are you going to let it knock you down and keep you down, or are you going to get back up and keep fighting?
Yeah.
And I had a mild heart attack. I had enough training in both learning how to be a personal trainer, plus I worked on some cardiology projects in my past life. I knew I was having a heart attack the morning I did. And it was very mild, but it was a heart attack. And we went over to San Francisco, and even my cardiologist didn't think I was having a heart attack at the time. And then the blood work came back, and then it was clear that I did, and they did a cardiac catheterization. They found it was a small vessel off the right coronary artery. And so I had to take blood thinners for a year. And my cardiologist said, no lifting heavy. Can't lift heavy. No heavy lifting. And he said, you can lift 15 to 20 reps. What does that mean when you do 15 to 20 reps? It's lightweight, right? And then I got to the point, can I go 12 to 15? Okay, you can do 12 to 15. How about 10 to 12? Okay. Last August, 5 months after my shoulder surgery, my surgeon said, you are where everybody else is at a year. Because let me say, physical therapy is a godsend. if you don't do what the physical therapist says to do, you're never going to get better.
Yeah.
Do you think it hurts now when you do stuff that the physical therapist says to do? You don't do that, it's going to hurt worse. And I've been through lots of physical therapy for lots of things. And so when I came home from my shoulder surgery, what's the first thing I did is I started doing all the exercises, and I got on the exercise bike the next day. I told the surgeon after my surgery was over, I said, I'm going to be on the exercise bike tomorrow. He said, well, I guess I've never heard of anybody falling off an exercise bike because it weighs 180 pounds. It's not going to go over easily. And I was on the exercise bike day one after my shoulder surgery for a half an hour. What does that do? It brings fresh blood throughout your body to help it heal. Right? And so I was on that exercise bike virtually every day. I see the physical therapist. I do all the exercises, plus I figured out additional exercises to do. And at 5 months, the physical therapist I had released me because he said, I can't do anything more for you. However, there are some other things we'll talk about. And the surgeon said, you're where everybody else is at a year. Go ahead, you can train for powerlifting. So this is now 2 years post-heart attack. So I contact my cardiologist. When can I start training for powerlifting? Tell me your blood pressures. Give me a week's worth of blood pressures. Gave him a week's worth of blood pressures. Okay, I give you permission to train. So in August of this past year, I started training for getting strong to do a powerlifting meet. And I was basically, realized that before my shoulder surgery, I couldn't bench press a 15-pound bar. Okay. So I spent from August through November getting ready to train. I found the meet, and by the way, during that time, remember I told you about the doctor who is the doctor for the Warriors? I contacted him and I said, can you put a training program together for me so I can get strong to be able to do a powerlifting meet? I want to get back to powerlifting and I don't want to re-injure my shoulder, right? My wife was very clear. Do not re-injure your shoulder. If you re-injure your shoulder, I'm going to be really mad.
There's a lesson there. You haven't really listened to the cardiologist and the physio. You've done what they've said, but you've kind of got, when your wife says something, you're like, okay.
So what the Dr. Need, who's the Warriors doctor, referred me to a physical therapist who's over at the San Francisco Sports Medicine Center. He only works with professional athletes. This guy is really, really good. And so I got to see him. I got referred to him by the doctor for the Warriors. And obviously this guy works with people from the Warriors as well as professional football players and professional, the kickboxing, fighting, all of that. And he showed me a lot of stuff, and he's very thorough and real smart. And at the point that I was getting ready for the powerlifting meet, I started a 12-week cycle right at the end of November to go to February 22nd. And he gave me a couple of things, and he said, you can't train for pickleball and powerlifting at the same time. You can only do one sport. You can't do two. So I didn't play pickleball for 3 months. And the pickleball movement was hurting my shoulder anyway, and I didn't want that. So I stopped playing pickleball until after the powerlifting meet. I'm back playing a couple of days a week. I'm trying to get back playing a couple of days a week. But I started on the Westside Barbell Conjugate System at the end of November, beginning of December, on a 12-week training cycle. And my physical therapist said, "There's nothing more I can do for you. You know more about Westside Barbell and you know more about powerlifting than I do." He said, "You know, I can get people back into shape, but sending them out to play tackle football, they're going to get hurt again." With powerlifting, you got the same issue. You know, you got this shoulder. You just got to make sure you don't injure. And so I've been, you know, and that's one of the nice things about the camber bar is that it helps with on the bench press. And actually it helped. You know, I squat to this 12-inch plyo box. I don't know if you know about Westside Barbell Conjugate System at all or not. You probably do. You may
a little bit, yeah, a little bit. Not. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
I don't think anybody except Louis Simmons. But they always. It turns out what Westside Barbell does is the only time they don't do box squats is in competition. So every squat is a box squat. Now I'm squatting to a 12-inch plyo box, which is about 3 inches below parallel for me. What does that do? Think about what that does. Yeah, I have to work harder to build more strength to be able to do a squat because I'm squatting further, right? And similarly, with the camber bar on the bench, because of where the weights go and where you're lifting, you're coming further than you would be on a flat bar. Okay. So you're actually building more strength.
You're building strength through a greater range of motion than you actually need at the competition, aren't you? So yeah.
So and then the other thing that they do, I have a little platform that I built for doing deficit deadlifts. You know, it's 2 inches, you know, here, hold on a second. My platform.
Yeah. So again, if you're used to doing your deadlifts from a 2-inch deficit, then when you come to pick it up from a standard 9 inches, you're going to because you're deadlifting from 7 inches, aren't you? Effectively, when you're stood on that platform.
Yeah, 4 inches more, I calculated.
Yeah,
because you got to get 2 inches further down, and you got to come up 2 inches further. So you're doing 4 inches more work, similar to the box squat, similar to using the camber bar. So, and at my age, you know, I'm not going to be doing 500 pounds. You know, I didn't start in my teens or 20s to build up that kind of strength. I don't have the musculature for it. But this is going to get me further than, you know, if you think about it, last August, I was probably able to bench press, you know, 45, 60 pounds. I was probably able to deadlift maybe 135 if I was lucky, and squat 95 pounds in August of last year. And I just set, you know, I did 242 on the squat, which is 110 kilos. My bench press, I tied the state record, which is 174 pounds. If I'd have gone up 2.5 kilos instead of, let's see, wait a minute, what's that? Somehow okay, that's fine. All right. Okay. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, and I deadlifted 303 pounds, 137.5 kilos. You know, that's in 6 months of training. That's pretty goddamn good.
Yeah.
It is. It's funny. There's a theme running through everything you're talking about here, and it's something we spoke about a few weeks ago. I can never remember which podcast it was, but a few weeks ago, and James came up with the idea. It was just a podcast with me and James. He didn't come up with the idea, but he suggested talking about it. But it was having bumpers, like upper and lower limits, but then taking away friction from anything that you want to be able to do. So when you said about, you moved whatever it was, like out of San Francisco, and then the gym that you joined and all of that sort of stuff, and you worked out, well, the money that it's costing me, I could build my own gym at home. The friction's gone then, so you don't even have to worry about that. It's there.
Right.
And then the young lad across the street who wants to be a Marine or whatever, it's like you've removed friction for him. Use my place. I'll let you in. I'll move the car. And then like these sorts of things, like, or the physio, well, I'll get the bands and I'll do this. And you've got it all set up and it's all around you. So all you have to do is go and do it. And there's no friction there at all for to say, you've had this to your shoulder, you've had this heart attack, you've had this many knees replaced, you've had whatever it is. And then it's like, right, what do I need to do? They tell you what to do, and then you go away and get the things, or you already have the things to be able to do it. So the friction is completely gone. So you can't lose, basically. And I think that's great, because that was something I hadn't really thought about before we did that podcast, even though I've probably, like, when you do things without thinking about it, and then when someone says, oh, that's got a name, you're like, oh, I've been doing that for years. That hit me with that, because I've just got kettlebells in the house. I haven't got a gym. I live in a flat. I've got kettlebells over there. I've got a pull-up bar outside. I do everything here. So I don't have to go anywhere. There's no friction at all.
Right.
Only in my head.
Yeah.
Of not wanting to do it.
Well, and that's right. I mean,
it's great.
There's no reason not to work out.
Yeah.
I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to have anybody else here. I have a restroom here. I got anything I want to drink or eat or whatever. And so it's very convenient for me. And I try to get other people in my neighborhood to come work out, but I can't get any of the old guys to come over here and work out. They look at me like, what kind of a crazy son of a bitch are you?
Are you aware of Dan John?
Huh?
Dan John, are you aware of him?
No.
Well, he's a strength coach and what have you. And lots of people in the strength world know about him, but he does that. He's in Utah, I think. And he's got a garage gym at home. And it's just open is it like a couple of times a week, or is it every day?
I think it's every morning they train, and he calls it like an intentional community, doesn't he?
Yeah. Right. So everyone, he's one of the best coaches in the world. And at 9 a.m. every morning, he just invites people from his local community or anywhere. In fact, you could fly in and go if you wanted, and they can go and train in his gym between 9 and 10:30 or something like that.
Well, that's like what Alan Aerts used to do.
Yeah.
Every 4 nights a week, people would come as far away as Sacramento, all the way down below San Jose. And I think what happens in strength training is it is a community, and you want to pay it forward. I've gotten a lot from people that didn't ask anything in return. So why should I ask anything in return when I help somebody else? So, I'm really excited to have Cameron from across the street now do 255 pounds on a deadlift. When he goes to ROTC camp this coming summer, he's going to be able to hold his own. Right. And he did it all himself. I just gave him a place to do it and showed him some things. But he did it. And that's great. It's good for up here. It's good for here. Right? It makes you a better person.
I said to someone, I had this conversation with someone the other week, and it was about, when they ask people who live till they're 100 and whatever, and they say to them, what's the key to living to this age? And they're always like, normal people, you know, it's not like they've done anything out of the ordinary or anything like that. A lot of these people have just lived a normal life. But it seems to me that, you know, they're like, oh, I have a whiskey like once a week and a cigar at Christmas, and that hasn't killed me yet, and all of that. And it just seems like they've just had like not a stupid amount of stress in their life. They've just like, I've just kind of not coasted through, but I've flowed through life doing things like you've just said there, like pay it forwards. You know, if someone's helped you, help someone else. All of these things. And you're a great example of this because you've lived through all these things that we've mentioned. And because you've got a purpose. You haven't given up on anything. You're like, I've got a purpose, and I'm helping the next, not even the next generation, the next like 2 generations below or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, like you said, it makes you a better person, and it just, I think it's like it gives you life, doesn't it? And it's a great.
Well, it does. Well, and the other thing about it is, as we get older, people underestimate us.
Yeah.
And I have a great example. I have a fountain that's got 3 pieces made out of concrete, a bigger one, a smaller one, and a smaller one. When I bought that, it took 3 people, 3 men, to put the base in the back of the car. I got it out myself. Okay. I mean, there's a self-confidence that comes with strength training, that I can pick up a bag of groceries. I can go into a home improvement store and pick up a sack of concrete. You know, it's those kinds of things that when you're young, you take that stuff for granted. But when you're old, and I admit it, I'm old. I'm 78 years old. I'm an old man. People underestimate me. And you know, and I love blowing their minds when I do stuff that, oh, you shouldn't be able to do that. You're an old man. Yeah, well, let me show you.
That's where I've said this a lot as well, but should and shouldn't aren't really, they shouldn't be words. Because like, you shouldn't be able to do that. It's like, well, I can. So it's not a thing. Or you should be able to do that. It's like, who says? Because you know, it's like, it's what you like want and need are the words to use, I would say, rather than should or shouldn't. Yeah, like you want to be able to do something, so therefore you do the things to be able to do that, rather than you shouldn't be able to do that, so don't bother. Do you know what I mean? There's almost like an extrinsic thing of should and shouldn't, and then want and need is an intrinsic thing of like, if you need something, you're going to have it anyway, and if you want something, you'll do the things to go and get it. Because if you don't, then it means you don't want it, regardless. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's what's in my head.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, you know, I see a lot of people my age who are really compromised in terms of how they walk, or you know, and it doesn't have to be that way. You know, you know, there are certain, you know, we've got a good friend, the husband's got Parkinson's. It's a terrible disease, just an awful disease. And you're not going to do anything more on that than he's able to do. I mean, it's an awful, awful, awful disease. And I've told my family, I said, if I get a disease like that, I'm going to off myself. No question about it. 'Cause it's a seriously downhill slope. And there's nothing you can do about it. But for things that are not like that, like a heart attack, you can come back from that. And part of it's up here. You have to say, I want to come back from that. That heart attack is just a bump in the road as opposed to a roadblock. You know, and so that's, I guess you were asking me earlier, Pete, what, you know, my mindset is, you know, nothing's going to stop me. And if I get something that's going to stop me, then I guess it's really going to stop me. But I haven't had anything stop me yet.
Another question I had, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to ask this or not. So you didn't start all this until you were 60. Did you have any? Because I didn't start until my mid-30s, nearly like, you know, late 30s, whatever. And every now and then, you know, like, oh, what would have happened if I'd have started when I was 15? I would have been like, how strong would I be now? You know what I mean? But I've got no regrets about it. There's nothing I can do about it. So what's your thought on that? Because you obviously started much later. I mean, you were obviously running and stuff like that, but you started this much later. It's like, imagine how strong you would have been at 78 if you had started 40 years earlier. Do you ever think of that? Or
I do. As a matter of fact, I was at a powerlifting meet one time, and this guy who was in his mid-50s had just deadlifted over 700 pounds. And he was telling me, sit down and rest between my warm-up sets. He said, if you save 1% of your energy, that can make a difference in a lift. So sit down. He had started lifting in his, I guess, teens or early 20s. And I have seen this on a number of people, that if they start in their teens or 20s, and if they're not those people that get real big and real strong real fast, and they do a steady progression, they hit their peak in their mid-50s.
Yeah.
I mean, think about pulling 700 pounds on a deadlift. 700 plus pounds. What's that? 300 kilos?
Yeah.
320 kilos. That's a lot of weight. But he spent, you know, a lot of years building up to that. I don't have those years. I'm never going to do that.
Yeah, because we had Lucy Underdown on the podcast, who is the strongest female deadlifter in the world. Who's a British. She's a Metropolitan Police officer actually in London, and she did 700 pounds. Yeah, it was 318 kilos, I think it was.
Wow.
And then since then, she's gone on and she's done 325 kilos. And she is natural. She is a big, strong lady. I mean, she's 6'1". She's probably around 120 kilos, her body weight. You know, she's a big, strong lady.
Big person.
Yeah, but she is incredible. If you get a chance to see her, you know, you go on YouTube and just type in Lucy Underdown, you'll see her.
Right. I've seen a number of very strong women.
Yeah. But she's incredible. You know. And I think she's only, is she in her 30s now, or is she still late 20s?
28 or 29 or something.
28 or 29, yeah. But yeah,
it's not
like but no, she's incredible. But no, I mean, what we'll do, Mike, we'll have to wrap up now, but I really do think that that's been so inspiring for people. And I mean, if people, I know you've got obviously a YouTube channel, Silver Iron Warriors. Is that the one that is that probably the best place for people to go along and subscribe to that channel, and you'll be posting stuff regularly on there, will you, for people to keep up on what you do? Yeah.
Yes, that's the plan. And I'm going to keep trying to post. And if I do another meet, I think I may be doing another meet in August. Okay. And so this time I won't need to do a 12-week training cycle.
Yeah, because you won't be starting from ground zero again.
Ground zero.
You'll be starting much further along. No, that's been really, really incredible. And I really do hope that people listen to this episode, share it with their friends and their family and other people, just because it's so inspiring. And like you say, but it all starts with your mindset, doesn't it? It all starts with setting the goal and having that kind of outlook of wanting to improve yourself and not settle, not letting anything stop you. You know, I think that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree with that. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Mike.
Well, thank you for doing this. I'm really pleased to be able to do it. And I hope you get a lot of viewers on this.
Yeah, it's great. And it'll be on, like I say, we'll share it with you, but it'll be on all the normal platforms, you know, Apple Podcasts and Spotify and YouTube and anywhere people listen to podcasts. And no, it's really great. And maybe we'll catch up with you again in down the line, after another couple of months and see how you're doing. But no, thank you so much.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Please do like, share, Subscribe on YouTube if you don't already. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you can. We will be back. We've got I think the next 3 weeks of guests we've got lined up already. So we will be back with more great guests next week. But this episode, that is, Mike, 78 years old, state record powerlifter, prostate cancer, heart attack, 2 knee replacements, and just look what he's gone on.
Knackered shoulder.
Knackered shoulder, yeah, shoulder surgery, yeah, shoulder. Brilliant. We will be back next week for episode 243. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Pete. And we'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.